Williams in lane 4, Bates in lane 5, Wesleyan in lane 6, and WPI in lane 7. So we saw the races for lanes this morning in some of the lightweight events. You've got to kind of have a tactic in mind of what you're going to do here and how you're going to approach this race, because it's not deciding who's going to medal here, but it could be, depending on how conditions are tomorrow, it could be to your advantage to really race to your best ability today.
No question. I think most coaches are going to tell their crews to go really hard for 1,000, look around and size up the situation. They don't want to blow up in the race for lanes. But as you say, it can have impact and implications for the final.
Yeah, and just even mentally, if you're one of those athletes that you've got a great start and you get out there, that could just give you a little bit more confidence going into that grand final that, hey, maybe we can pull an upset tomorrow and earn a spot into the medals here. So this is the first time that we've ever at the IRA National Championships had the Division III second varsity eights. Last year was the first Division III event with just the varsity eights only. This second year, the coaches were extremely satisfied with the event last year. I think the athletes really enjoyed being part of this large NC2A or IRA championship, and they got the opportunity to race alongside so many varsity crews of such high caliber that bringing the second varsities on board this year really seemed to make sense for all of these crews.
You bet. The more the merrier. Makes it deeper, more interesting, more parents, more people on the crowd to cheer these deserving athletes on. So it looks like they're squaring up their blades, getting ready for the first start of the afternoon in the men's varsity Division III, second varsity eights, heat number 1.
So 7 boats across. We haven't had another 7-boat race here today. So kind of a interesting dynamic, having 7 boats all the way across. I guess the first race of the morning, the late weights were as well. But here we go, 7 boats across, looking for the lanes here. So from this view here, now we're looking down at the race course. We've got lane number 1 on the left of your screen. That's St. Lawrence. Tufts in 2, going left to right. Trinity in 3. Williams in 4 there in the middle. Bates in 5, Wesleyan in 6, and WPI in lane 7 on the right-hand side of the screen. So right there in the middle, that top-seeded crew from Williams out there first. Really nice start that we saw from Williams there with Trinity and Tufts and Bates right alongside them. It looks like Wesleyan not far off of Bates either there.
Yeah, Trinity's hanging right in there, and the crew on the outside of Williams as well. Looks like Tufts.
Yeah, so a good start here across the board, but we expect to see Williams really going out after it here. Williams at that New England Championship was second to Holy Cross in this second varsity eights race, with Trinity finishing in 3rd, Wesleyan in 4th, and Tufts in 5th there. But pretty close between Trinity and Wesleyan. Just a second and a half between those two in that 3rd and 4th spot. But what a great shot now of Williams here. Coach Mandel's crew is just a really well put together, rowing sharp, staying really smooth and together here for this second varsity 8. And let's go over now. Dave Vogel's out on the water with us this afternoon, covering it from the water. Let's talk to Dave in the launch. Dave, over to you.
I think that first 500 is going to be mostly what you see of testing one another out. In this heat, I doubt that any crew is going to be willing to really expend themselves for the last couple of seats that might make the difference in lanes. Williams almost with a boat length lead over Trinity. Wesleyan is right there with Trinity also, so it's Williams, Wesleyan, and Trinity at 750 meters. There was some talk at the start about whether we would shift the lanes around, but that didn't happen. We've got St. Lawrence
Okay, we're ready. All right, sorry about that little missed airtime there, but here we go. We're back watching now from the stream here. So Williams still out in front with, I think that looking like Trinity giving them a pretty good race for that second position. This is that race that we're just going to settle for lanes here. I think Bates is moving on that outside, maybe wants to make sure that they're going to be right alongside Trinity. I think that's a smart play for Bates here for to get into the finals. You want to be close with those crews that are going to be contending for the medals. That gives you a little bit better shot to feed off that energy and that speed and be able to go in there and go for that silver, go for that gold. So here's Williams out in front with Bates and Trinity running with them.
Looks like Wesleyan's holding down that fourth spot, Steve, on the far side in lane 6. And then I think probably we've lost track here, the visual of St. Lawrence and Tufts, but Trinity, absolutely. Williams out front, Trinity, Bates, and then Wesley in that fourth spot, although maybe now it is lane 5.
Yeah, I think.
Yep, Bates.
Yep, I think we had Wesleyan and Bates confused there for a second because of the lane markers, but Bates is back behind. Wesleyan is the crew challenging for Williams and Trinity. So we've got Williams on the lead with Wesleyan and Trinity running right up in that second and third place position. We drop back, and now we take a look here at Tufts now in lane number 2, and St. Lawrence is the trailing crew in lane number 1.
Boy, not much separating the Trinity and Williams fight up there in the front.
No, they're really staying in good contact, and this is one of those things like we saw in some of those other races. Is how comfortable is Trinity going to let Williams get? Is Trinity going to force the issue and make Williams kind of pay with a little sprint here at the end to hold them off? But it's a pretty good showing by Trinity to kind of keep their nose in there, keep their bow right on about the
and look at Wesleyan come.
Yep.
Wesleyan's coming on strong.
So these three have separated themselves from the rest of the field. It might be that these three kind of setting themselves up to be the three that look for the medals tomorrow, and they're going to be with finishing in first, second, third, they'll be in 3 lanes right next to each other with a good visual contact of each other in the finals. But as we come down here to the finish, we got Williams on the lead, looking strong, just like their varsity did earlier today. Their varsity was rowing a very strong, smooth race, looking very sharp together for the East here. Williams just has done a fantastic job all season, really getting a lot of good effort and energy, it sounds like, from Coach Mark Mandel, that they have a very deep team, a very strong team top to bottom, where guys from that 4th varsity, from that 5th varsity are pushing guys in the 3V. That leads to that pressure being applied to the upper boats, like helping out to make sure that the varsity and that 2nd varsity are nice and strong as well. So here comes Williams on the lead, nice and long in this last few hundred meters, with Trinity giving a little push. Trinity's lifted that rate. But it's Williams over the line, Trinity in a clear 2nd place position with good overlap, and Wesleyan in that 3rd spot there in lane number 6, ahead of Bates here in 4th, and WPI and Tufts finishing in those 5th and 6th place positions, with St. Lawrence back there in 7th. So those 7 crews, they'll be gathered up again tomorrow for that final. We'll see how things shape out, but I think what we saw was that Williams is probably the class of that group, but Trinity and Wesleyan kind of know what they have to do to A, get themselves in the medals, and B, maybe go after that Williams crew. All right, we're back right up and ready to go at the start line here for this 2nd race. We've got the men's collegiate varsity 8, the first repechage. We've got Navy over here closest to us, Dartmouth in lane 4, Georgetown in 5, and UC San Diego on the outside. So we have a good start. Dartmouth definitely going to be the favored ones in this rep here. Dartmouth put down a great time this morning. I think that maybe Navy has something in them. Navy has a little bit of juice going to go after the big green here in the first 500 meters. We'll see what Navy can do if they can hang with the power of Dartmouth and try to go after this rep win, because it's only one boat to advance to the semifinals.
That's the ticket right there, is you've got to win this to advance to the semi. Dartmouth definitely got squeezed out this morning. That always happens in those heats. One on those bubble crews is going to be, just miss it, and they're going to roll a really fast time but not make the automatic into the semis. But it looks like Dartmouth is pulling away from Navy here about a half a length. followed by it's going to be Georgetown and San Diego. Looks like San Diego's up on Georgetown by a few seats, 2 or 3 seats.
Yeah, so Dartmouth is doing the job that they need done today. So Dartmouth has that lead. Nice, strong push here by Dartmouth early in the race to make sure they've got that open water. They've established what they want to do. Get into that semifinal. Set yourself up for a chance to make
As the seedings would predict,
That's what
Dartmouth
we
got
want to see.
to the
So
100 first
Dave,
with a
over
boat
to
length
you
over
on
Navy.
the water now.
Navy is in second place. They're just up on UC San Diego with Georgetown another half length back. And it's Dartmouth with the open water. The early leaders have settled in at 38. Looking very serious. They're adding to their lead. Navy has about 3 seats up on Georgetown. UC San another third of a length back. It's a very good fight in second place. But this is a very important heat. Only the winner gets to go to the A and B semifinal. All the rest of the team will go to the C, D semifinals. So Dartmouth taking care of business. They've got almost a length of water on the back. It's now San Diego into second place.
All right, so we're working on that feed from the launch here, but we've got that good race going on for second, third, and fourth here. But Dartmouth clearly out. You can just see from this picture the wake of Dartmouth. Dartmouth is just pushing those other crews away here as they go down the race course. So nice. We've seen some good work being done by the Big Green the last few years, and this is a good example of how that hard work and that hard training that Coach Wyatt Allen has these guys doing, it is certainly paying off in this rep here.
Well, I should say that's a pretty impressive margin. We're how far into the race here?
Just passing the 1,000 there.
1,000 meters, and they've got probably a length of open anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah, at least a length there.
Length and a half of open.
Now.
Not much to be threatened by there.
Nope. And these other 3 crews, these other 3 remainders will go to the CD semifinals, where the best finish they could have would be finishing 13th overall here. Georgetown and Navy, those 2 crews, both they're putting in enough to kind of battle each other here. I think that they're kind of staging it out here as they hit 500 meters to go. I think we'll see either Georgetown or Navy decide to make a push and make themselves the clear second place finisher amongst these 3 trailing crews here. Or sorry, that's San Diego, not
Right.
San Diego with Georgetown trailing right now.
Already 5 strokes in it. They are clearly looking to take care of business and get out of the heat so they can get in and rest up for the semifinals tomorrow. So a little bit of separation as we get to the final 500. We'll be sending it to the drone and the finish line tower for the call, with Dartmouth in a commanding position, Navy just a deck length up on UC San Diego, and Georgetown starting to come back into it. They're only half a length back with 500 meters to go.
All right, so like Dave was saying from the water, there we go. Dartmouth owning this race, running away with it, got themselves in that position to move to the semifinals. And now it's going to be, can UC San Diego, can the Tritons kind of go and attack here and get up past Navy? They were about a deck down was what Dave was calling it. We'll see what it looks like at the finish now if UC San Diego can put a little bit more spin into it here as they hit 500 meters to go. But Dartmouth clear out in front, looking long and powerful.
Coordinated universal time.
So we'll take a look here from that drone picture. It does look like Navy's maybe just getting a little push out away from UC San Diego. UC San Diego staying in that solid third place position, up ahead of Georgetown there in the trailing spot. But Dartmouth has been able to kind of control the race now. You can even see from this shot that we get from the finish line tower now, Dartmouth has dropped the rate. They're still staying with good power. They're still staying with good length. That's what the coaches want to see. They want to see that the crew's still rowing very well as they hit this little stride where they just start to take the rate down but maintain the margin here. And that's exactly what the Big Green have done here over the course of the last 750 meters or so. But good start, good powerful output off the line here from Dartmouth. And there's Dartmouth over the line with Navy in a clear second place position. Navy bumped up that rate maybe a little bit more than UC San Diego and Georgetown decided to do. But there's Navy as your clear second place winner. And there's UC San Diego in third ahead of Georgetown. So those are the crews that are through the line in that heat number 1 of the reps. And that is Dartmouth that'll be moving on to join into those semifinals. So a good showing from the young men from Hanover there. Doing an excellent job to put together a really strong start on that one and just let themselves have good control of the race all the way down the course.
Yeah, I think I was talking to someone else who's related to Dartmouth earlier, and they've definitely had their challenges, had some changes in the lineup and injury. One of their stronger guys had a back issue. So another trip down the course probably was a good thing for them to try and get a little bit more time together, and that was a good solid effort on their behalf.
Yeah, so there's Dartmouth's time, 6:01.72, Navy 6:10.15. And you can see, I mean, these times are significantly slower than this morning's times, almost 25 seconds slower for Dartmouth than what they went this morning. But the wind has definitely picked up. You can see the flags down here at the finish line are not moving much right now, but as we went by that, the pavilion there at 500 meters to go, you could see the American flag kind of standing straight out. So there's a little times where that headwind gets to be strong enough that it's going to slow down and make the course just a little bit longer for these guys this afternoon in the heat of the heat of the afternoon here. We got our second rep coming up here. We've got MIT here in lane number 3, Stanford over in lane 4, Boston University in 5, and Oregon State University Beavers over in lane number 6. So 4 boats, 1 boat through to the semifinals. The expectation here would be that Stanford and Boston University, those 2 crews, were the higher finishers. It could be a pretty solid, good race here coming between those 2 to see who's going to go to that semifinal tomorrow on Saturday of the IRA.
Yeah, as you say, Steve, Stanford got nipped this morning by Northeastern by 0.4 of a second, I believe, and Boston University had definitely a solid finish at the Eastern Sprints a couple of weeks ago. So, and they're definitely in this race. They'll be figuring to push Stanford all the way down, as well as the other 2 crews trying to get some drafting right along with them and stick and see how close they can be to these 2 presumed front runners in this heat. So they're getting ready. They're on the line. Blades are not square yet, but we should have a start momentarily.
Yeah, and coming into this, BU is seeded as the 11th seeded varsity 8, so they want to make sure that they get into that. Both of these 2 crews, Stanford and BU, were both seeded in the top 12, so one of these crews has to really have a good showing at it today to make sure they get themselves in position to be in those semifinals and put together the best race of their season in the semis to possibly squeak their way into the grand final. So we're just looking now, as you look from the drone here, we've got on the left is MIT, then Stanford there in lane 4, Boston University in 5, and Oregon State there in lane number 6. Nice and quiet at the start. So you can see the wind, I mean, for a little bit of headwind, it's not really disruptive at all for what the crews are doing as they stage for the races up there at the start. Looks like it's been pretty calm and not too difficult for any of these coxswains to get their boats in alignment and stuff up there.
Yeah, I expect this will be a really good race, and we have a start.
So off the start, we'll check these guys and see. It looks like Stanford had some real strong traction there on the first 5 strokes or so, and maybe took a seat or 2 off of BU here. So real nice start from Stanford. We saw Stanford a couple weeks ago at the Pac-12 championships. Stanford was kind of one of those crews that was almost a little sticky. Washington could never shake them away, and Stanford really went after it at the end of the race in the finals of the Pac-12 championships to just come up a tiny bit short of Washington in that silver medal position. Washington getting second, Stanford finishing third to the University of California at the Pac-12s. But Stanford looks like they're doing a nice job out in front right now. We've got Stanford clear of Boston University. So here comes Stanford out to you, Dave. We've got BU running right behind them. We'll hand it on over to you now.
Well, Stanford, the third place, a close third place in the morning, being challenged by BU, but they've got almost a full boat length approaching 500. So Stanford looking to open up to a full length as their Coxon looks across to Boston University. Stanford at 37 has just one length at 500 meters. They're one length up on Boston University. And then MIT and Oregon State are essentially level. Oregon State has maybe a deck on that portion of the race. So it may have been risky to race as hard for the second place, but system of that because they're right back up in front in this repechage with only the winner moving forward into the AB semifinal. They have a little bit of water, open water on Boston University. Boston University looks pretty composed. They may have a charge in them here, 1,000-meter mark. That because clearly Stanford had a major effort in the morning. They just fell short. They're rowing at 30 now, trying to off BU. Those two are opening up water over Oregon State and MIT. And I think Boston University is just creeping up a little bit. They've got their bow ball up on the Coxon from Stanford. So we'll see if there's anything left in the tank. That blistering heat in the morning that Stanford just got nipped by Northeastern in a really brave effort. So here we are at the 1,000, and Stanford clearly putting in more right now. And BU answering, it's kind of like they're both on their third 500 moves and negating one another. There's just not, they're going faster. They're opening up water, but they're not, there's no impact on the margin. Stanford's now just exactly a length up ahead of Boston University. And I think they're going to try to hold that into the final 500 meters. Stanford has not been able to shake Boston University. They got out to that early 3/4 of a length and then made it a length at the 500. And that's where they stand through the next 1,000 meters. It's just level contest. One boat will make it into that 12-boat field for the A-B semifinal tomorrow. Stanford with about 3 feet of open water over Boston University. Oregon State in third, with MIT back in fourth. Remains to be seen whether there's another gear from the Boston University Terriers to be found. They are making an early charge as we approach the last 500, and they pull their bow ball up within contact of Stanford once again. So I'll let the finish line tell you what's going to happen from here in.
All right, so yeah, we'll see what can happen here. It does look like Stanford has that place where they can kind of keep an eye on BU and not let them take too much of a charge without being able to really immediately respond. So the Stanford crew, very good job of staying out in front. They had that fast start and got themselves into position, but BU has never left them. They've been kind of what we'd call that.
Oh, yeah, I would say they've come back, Steve.
Yeah.
They've come back about 2 seats. The question is, are they going to run out of water? Stanford definitely paid a big price in that first 1,000. BU is on the move.
Yeah, BU's creeping up. They got their bow ball up to the 7-man. But as Fred just said, sometimes you might run out of water here, and they're approaching the finish line quickly here. And Stanford has another chance to bump up the rate here, and it does kind of appear that Stanford did make a little bit of a shift there in just the last 5 strokes to bring that rate back up. They've got the bow ball of BU back to the coxswain now. They regained a seat, and now here they come to the line here. Stanford and Boston University, the 2 lead crews. 1 crew through to the semifinal, though. So here comes Stanford, staying strong, staying composed. The Cardinal looking good here as they get up to the line here. Boston University has not left them alone and let them relax one bit, though. So there it is, Stanford going through, and we've got BU in that second place position. BU is going to be definitely one of the teams to contend with there in the third level finals. Here's Oregon State wrapping up, finishing in that third place position. So Oregon State over the line. And in fourth place, final boat of this wrap here is MIT. So that'll be BU and Oregon State and MIT moving into the CD semifinals, and Stanford joining Dartmouth and the crews from this morning into those into the AB semifinals, which are always some of the best races of the whole season. Is those AB semis?
Oh boy. Yes, they are.
So there's Stanford, 556.05. BU just 2 seconds back at 558.32. Good effort by the Terriers. Boston guys, the Boston University guys put down a good race all the way through. Just not quite enough to catch Stanford after that great start there by the Cardinal. So we head back up. We got 2 more repechage races coming for the varsity 8s, and then moving into the second varsity and third varsities, and then into the semifinals of the 4s events. So a good afternoon of racing. That first 2 races kind of played to the card there. Dartmouth and Stanford, your 2 fastest from the morning.